In this video, I really want to talk about the fall turnover. Now, I know that we are here in the month of August, but really depending on where you live, if you live more up north, you're going to be seeing the fall turnover start to happen here in the next month. So I really just want to put this video out because I think it's important to prepare for the fall turnover because it can be very tough bass fishing during this period of time, no matter where you live. Now, there are two really big things that I like to do when I'm experiencing a fall turnover on any given body of water that help me to stay consistent out there and catch fish. Now, before we get into that, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. Right now, for the month of August 2024, if you buy a USA made sun shirt, like the one that you see right here, you actually get a free Tri-Blend American Bass t-shirt. This is one of the most comfortable t-shirts that you will ever wear, whether you're watching football or just hanging around the house, or even if you want to take it out there fishing. And right now it's completely free with the purchase of a sun shirt. So all you got to do, add the sun shirt, the color and size you like to cart, add the American Bass t-shirt, the size that you like to cart. It will automatically discount at checkout. Shopping at Finn Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, real quick, before we get to the fall turnover stuff, I just want to take 1 minute here to address a few commenters down there in the comments, because I don't always respond to the comments, but I always read them. And something that I wanted a lot of the commenters to know is that I have two channels. For those of you guys that don't know, I have BassFishingHQ and I have this channel. This channel is meant to be a completely unedited, like just talking about bass fishing channel. That is all that this is meant to be. And the reason that I wanted to create this channel is because there's a lot of things that I don't always talk about on BassFishingHQ that are very, very important, but they're not sexy. And because they're not sexy, they don't always get views on videos, but they're still really, really important. So in this channel, I really wanted to create kind of a community of guys where we just talk about bass fishing. Like I speak on this channel the same way that I speak to my best friends when we talk about fishing. Like there's zero difference. Over on BassFishingHQ, I will edit things out here and there. Over here, guess what? I'm going to say things and they're not always going to be like perfect. For example, someone in the comments said, you say with that being said a lot. Guess what? I know I do. That's just the way that I am. I'm sorry. I'm not perfect, but I like to fish. And that's all that really matters in my opinion. So if you guys don't want to watch the channel, you don't want to watch this channel, then don't. Like, I'm okay with it. I don't care if this video gets 1,000 views or if it gets 100,000 views. I appreciate a lot of you guys who are just here to talk about fishing. Now, with that being said, let's talk about fishing. Let's talk about the fall turnover. Because like I said, the fall turnover is just, it can be really, really difficult. And for a long time, I hated the fall turnover. And it's because of the style in which that I like to fish. And we'll get into that here in just a minute. But once I kind of figured out a few things with the fall turnover, it really just helped me to be more consistent out there when it comes to fishing. Now, for those of you who do not know what I'm referring to when I say fall turnover, I want to quickly explain that. Now, during the summer, on a number of bodies of water out there, a lake is going to stratify. Okay, and what that means is it's just going to break apart into really three different sections. You have the upper section, you have the thermocline, and you have the lower section of a lake. Now, the upper section of a lake is filled with oxygen, and it typically has a lot warmer water. The thermocline has a lot of oxygen as well. It's kind of right there sandwiched in between the upper and the lower layer. The lower layer tends to have very little oxygen in it. So you don't typically have a big fish population in that lower level, although you will see fish that will travel into the lower level at times, but they can't really live there for a long, long time. Now, during the fall, when the water temperatures start to go down, they start to cool off, that upper layer is going to cool off so much that it literally flips with the lower level, okay? And that is because we know that hot things rise. Hot air rises, hot water rises as well. So when the hot water on top gets cold enough where all of a sudden it mixes with the bottom layer, that is what the fall turnover is. Now, if you think about it, think of water volume as a whole. If you have, like if this is your water, volume, and half of it has oxygen and half of it doesn't have oxygen, when that flips all of a sudden, now you have oxygen throughout the entire system, but that oxygen is a little bit lower as far as like the level, the parts per million, because you're spreading that oxygen out that was just in the top level throughout the entire water column. So therefore, a lot of times fish are not always going to be super aggressive because they don't have kind of the adequate amount of oxygen. Like they can't afford to expend a lot of energy. And so it can be very difficult fishing. You can go fish in some really good areas and not get a single bite during the fall turnover because the fish are simply not feeding. Now, with that being said, I think it's very important for you guys to understand that there is a ton of dead water out there. And for me, for years, I always like to fish offshore structure. Like I love fishing offshore. I love structure, a cover. I love using my electronics. I have found that although it is very possible to catch fish offshore during a fall turnover, it seems like the easier fishing to me happens in shallow water. And so for years, when I tried in late summer, early fall to fish offshore, I struggled a lot. And when I started to move up shallow and start fishing more shallow water cover that I could see, it really started helping me to catch a lot more bass. So anytime you are experiencing a fall turnover, this is something that really, to me, it automatically makes me think, let's go up shallow. Let's go up shallow. Now, for those of you, again, who may or be newer to bass fishing, you don't always know when a fall turnover is taking place. And one thing I will tell you is that you typically have watercolor that will go from being kind of your clear summer color to kind of all of a sudden like funky. And sometimes you will even see like parts of almost what looks like the bottom that are rising up. And at times you will even have an odor. Sometimes I've been on lakes that smell when the fall turnover is happening. And so that kind of signifies to me, hey, let's go to the bank, let's start fishing shallow. Now, when I am fishing shallow, the biggest thing that I have found when it comes to that fall turnover time is there is no real pattern. All I'm doing is fishing shallow, whatever is on the bank. If it's a dock, I'm gonna fish a dock. If it's a rock, I'm gonna fish the rock. If it's grass, I'm gonna fish grass. No matter what it is, I like to kind of junk fish during this time of the year. We just talked about junk fishing yesterday in a video. And so I will actually link my junk fishing video at the end of this video if you guys want to watch it. But that is what I do a lot in this late summer, early fall time frame. I'm going to go down the bank and I'm just going to junk fish. I'm going to throw a square bill here, a buzzbait there, flip a jig under here, and skip a frog under here, and just go down the bank fishing. And what I have found is that it is good to not try to pattern fish during this time of the year, because I think instinctively a lot of us anglers, if we catch a fish under a dock, we're like, okay, what other docks can we go run to? And then we go run docks for a little while and we don't catch anything. But the thing is like I said, there's not always a great pattern really until that water temperature really starts to cool off. When it really starts to cool off, it gets into the 50s, like upper 50s, that's when I think you can really start to pattern fish. But when it's kind of in that 60s and low 70s, that's when I feel like it is just junk fishing madness out there. You throw the kitchen sink at them and try to catch them. Now, the one piece of cover, this is the second thing that I really look for during a fall turnover. So first thing is all about shallow water, junk fishing. The second thing is vegetation. I do like to look for vegetation this time of the year. The biggest reason is that vegetation creates oxygen. If you have a lake that is a little bit lower on oxygen, but you have some grass mats or underwater hydrilla or lily pads, whatever it may be, like these are things that are creating oxygen. And so if it's creating oxygen, there tends to be not necessarily more bass in those areas, but they have bass that are biting in those areas, if that makes sense. Because you will have fish all over the place this time of the year. But the fish that are actually eating, they're eating because they have a little bit more energy. They have a little bit more oxygen. And you find that around the grass. So I always like to look for either shallow water or grass during this time of the year. Throughout the years, once I started doing those things, when I knew the fall turnover was happening, it really helped me to be more consistent out there on the water. You just have to know it's going to be a junk fishing type day, and it is what it is. So guys, speaking of junk fishing, if you want to watch a little bit more about junk fishing, I will leave a video that I did yesterday right up here. Also, don't forget to check out Fin Fishing. I appreciate all of you guys who watch this channel, and I will see you guys tomorrow.